Right. Welcome to Rambling Achieved. Back at it again with Brandon. Welcome back, sir.
Back at it like a crack addict in a trap something. I don't know. I think Two Chainz said that one time, but shout out to Two Chainz. Shout out to you, Loon, for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah, always a pleasure, as always. Um, but yeah, obviously we've been doing tons of discussion-based videos and stuff like that, and it's going to be the same here. I don't know if you've seen. I've been getting when I've been scrolling through Twitter and stuff, avoiding the landmines of controversy. There's been people posting pictures of um, 10 games to get to know me kind of thing. I've seen like a few times
Okay.
now. I don't know if you've seen that. And it's like a picture of, it's just a generic picture, and then there's just 10 games scattered all around. And that's kind of what inspired this because it was like, that's interesting, but how could we like do it a little bit of a deeper spin than just that? And that's kind of where it's like, I didn't want this to be games where they're objectively influential per se.
Hmm.
Obviously, there are going to be the ones that will make the list for us that overlap to that, but it's more personal in the space of. As an example, I'm not going to be. This isn't making my list, but Persona 3 would be one that I could have pulled from, where it's like that sinking into that kind of IP was very, very influential to me because it opened the doors to so many other things. And that's kind of like the inspiration for the video and the kind of thought process as to what I was doing when I was picking them. I don't know if
Yeah.
you had a similar thought process or if you went a different angle.
No, I pretty much did the same thing. It's funny that you mentioned the 10 games to get to know me by because I actually saw that this morning
Hmm.
for the first time. I was scrolling through Twitter and, like I guess my algorithm is typically some hot chick with like 10 games around her.
Yeah, that's
It's like,
that was the generic picture they went with. It's like, man, you know how to manipulate the system, guys. You
it's
caught
like
my eye, and then
wonderful.
I saw Resident Evil 4, and then I kept scrolling.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's such a wonderful process. It's those algorithms, they know you better than you think they do. But
Hmm.
it's yeah, I saw that today when I was scrolling through Twitter. And so it's funny that I didn't really think of that at all when building this list, but I think that my list of games that I have here kind of would be, it's 5 games, but this would be like the 5 games that I think I would, well, I don't know. Yeah, more so influenced me than like if I were to say the games to get to know me by,
Hmm.
the games that I identify as like such a huge fan of, a few of these wouldn't be on here for sure. But in terms of the influence to like dive deeper into that area, I think that these are the 5 key games that I think totally shaped my understanding, love, passion for this hobby in general. So yeah, I'm pumped to get into it with you, man.
Yeah, and so it'll probably be five apiece to get to that 10. And then, like I said before, we obviously ended up rolling. We can kind of rapid fire any that didn't quite make the cut, but you would have liked to at least shine a little bit of a spotlight on. Did you
Totally.
want to kick it off, or did you want me to kick it off?
Sure, man. Yeah, I'll kick it off. I'll kick it off with because I kind of built my list in descending order of the games that caught me when I was the youngest.
Hmm.
And my list is primarily based around when I think of like my influence and what really like hit those light bulb moments. Most of those moments occurred pretty early. Like I loved video games. Like it was my everything, man. I'll start off here with X-Men, the arcade game. I loved going to the arcade so much, which the arcade was just a bowling alley for us. And like, and I would play the other games in the arcade, but like that game specifically and just the animation quality, the sprites, it was just so unbelievably gorgeous with
Hmm.
that arcade cabinet, the original arcade cabinet build, and it was beautiful to look at. Every time I would go in, I would hear the music immediately. And like there's all these different sounds going on around you at the bowling alley. You're hearing the pins, you're hearing people hitting the pool balls and the pool balls cracking and you're hearing all the order number 80, like you're hearing all of that. But like somehow my ears could just like drown out the noise that I and it would immediately like as soon as I walked in I could hear that X-Men arcade cabinet roaring, and it was a loud fucking like it was a loud machine, man. It just attracted so much attention, and I loved X-Men. And and that's the thing is, and I've been wanting to talk about this as well. I don't know if you feel this way. I'm not like a super fan of anything. And I actually the next two games are like the closest. And honestly, it's wild. X-Men and the next two things I have on my list are the three things that I'm probably like the closest to being a super fan of in general. But I don't think I'm like a, even to this day, there's nothing that I'm like a super fan of. There's a lot of things that I love, but there's nothing that I'm a mega fan of. Like I like the buffet experience more than like picking one entree that you just really love from a restaurant. I'd like to try a little bit of everything.
Mm,
And so like early on, you know, I think that, and this kind of ties into like the blockbusterification of my generation, where we would go in and have this, wide range of options that you can get for such a cheap price and just try out all these different things. And like, once again, I've talked about it 100 times. That's why whenever Game Pass was introduced, I was like, oh,
mm.
that is so appealing to me. Day one, I can play these games for $10 a month, $15 a month. Like, you kidding me? And I mean, what a crazy run that was. And like, I think that's how I feel about Blockbuster now, where I'm just like, oh my God, that was crazy that we got the opportunity to play so much. And I think you know, it kind of shaped the fact that I'm maybe not so much of a mega fan of any one thing, but just the wide range of different options.
Hmm.
Like I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and just dabble in here, jump out there, and maybe once again to the ADHD point that probably has something to do with my crackhead brain, but um, yeah, that X-Men arcade, that was the first game. Mike Tyson's Punch Out was probably the first game that I played as like a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, whatever, and I was just enamored by seeing what was on the screen. And I remember that was like the first game that I would play, and my dad would be like, "Damn, you're actually kind of understanding how." Like I wasn't obviously fucking beating Mike
Yeah,
Tyson at three
beating
years
Mike
old or
Tyson
anything.
round one, 15
No, but
seconds. Wow, you're really good at this, son. We'll go places.
right. No, it was more so like I think that was the first game where I started to understand like control schematics of like
Yeah.
where to put your fingers on this device that's so foreign, and like how to make the thing on the screen actually react to what you're doing mechanically, what you're inputting. Um,
Yeah, that's
but
crazy that you said that. Like getting the controls and like things clicking because I can still vaguely like. There's obviously it's not photo realistic memory of like I can remember every single aspect, but I remember holding a 360 controller for the first time, coming from a PS2, and like that felt foreign. And it had been the thing of
right.
like the 360 was when I knew that I wanted like games to be a huge part of my life. Because PS2, it's kind of like a side piece thing of like you're going out and you're playing as a kid, coming back in, and I played it very casually, like very sparingly, jumping into like Lego Star Wars and stuff like that, and just there was no light bulb moment that clicked at that point. It was just kind of you have people who obviously still probably view games in that way of just like you don't see it as something truly special. And that was until the 360. I remember holding the controller. It was obviously a different layout, and it just felt like trying to learn a completely different skill. Being handed that as like, oh, I don't like. It felt weird to move the right stick to move the like camera left and right and stuff like that, and then moving the left stick to move the character forward and backwards. It was just very strange because it had been so long and stuff like that.
No shit, like I feel that way about the Switch still to this day. Like I have trouble getting onboarded with like their different button configurations, and like I appreciate that they
I'm
were the
clicking
OGs.
X. No, the X has been moved.
Right. Right. Yeah. And like they formatted that, right? Like they are the OGs. They
Mm.
can come up with like, I get it. I'm not trying to say they should swap to what Xbox and PlayStation do, but like it's a learning curve for sure. And so yeah, I but X-Men the arcade game, I would have to say the first game I really like was just totally enamored with would be X-Men the arcade. So that'll be my first shout out.
Yeah. So if you were hoping for me to be picking up the old the rope and bringing in some retro nostalgia, it'll be beginning from the 360. I'm afraid for me, and working my way forward. But what better game to start that off with than a BioWare's masterclass of an RPG, Mass Effect?
Yeah.
Um, like I said, it's not like photo ingrained in my head, remembering, but I remember vaguely going to a pre-owned shop and seeing it on the shelf, the spine of the, I think it was the collector's edition thing, the little tin box, and picking it up, and just it had. I think we've spoken about this, but I don't think many people have spoken about this. The art style of that like cover art of Mass Effect One, like it had colors that you don't usually see, if you remember. Like it was like a yellowy
Yeah.
orange kind of hue
Hmm.
on the horizon, and it was kind of interesting because that's like I don't think people, when you're buying physicals, you're getting it online a lot today. You don't have that experience now of picking up like game art in a store and like being exposed to that kind of thing. Where it's like, man, that sets it kind of apart. That's really unique.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I it definitely is like I mean, just from the jump, you do kind of feel like you're about to get into this Star
Mm,
Wars, space opera. Like it kind of conveys exactly what the game is going to be just from the immediate like picking up of the box. You're like, oh, okay, I think I get a great understanding for the experience that I'm about to get here.
yeah, and obviously you put it in and you're like, oh damn, because there really hadn't been. That wasn't the first game. Like I'd been given like Gears of War one to like try out and stuff
Mm.
like that, and you think like, oh, this is a cool experience, and then when you get given Mass Effect, you're like, so you're telling me I can get basically Gears of War combat and like S tier storytelling, and on top of that, like a world that is just dripping with atmosphere that I can go and fly to on these different planets and then land on them with a vehicle and then explore. Like it's just whatever. Like yeah, that's just crazy, crazy mind blowing that they pulled all that stuff off. Was it has it aged particularly well? No, not really. There's a lot of cracks that show now, but it was very important for them to lay that foundation down.
Yeah, man. And I mean, talking to that, that would be my go-to. That was the game that got me into role-playing games. You know what I
Mm,
mean? This was a genre that I always saw from afar, and I was just like, nothing about it spoke to me, until Mass Effect 1. Like that was really the game that kicked off everything where I was like, oh my God, I love the just for the longest time, I always thought this genre was going to be selecting attacks in a menu screen and kind of more anime leaning. And of course, there were games before Mass Effect, like obviously even BioWare games, Knights of the Old Republic, and wait, but that was
but
turn based,
that
and
was
but
turn
Jade
based. Yeah.
Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even like Jade Empire, of course, was before it, which I played after Mass Effect, and I
Mm.
love Jade Empire almost as much as I love Mass Effect. But what a run, what a damn run that studio had from 2004 to, well, I mean, even you go back to Baldur's
I was
Gate,
about to say
really.
pull it back a little bit further. Like Baldur's Gate was incredibly successful for them.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, all the way up to what was it 2013 was or 2012? It's one of them 2 years Mass Effect 3.
yep, 2012, I think.
Um, yeah, just really damn good. And then you know I think it got a little bit of leniency Inquisition to win like Game of the Year. I don't think it probably should have. So I wouldn't say that that was their masterclass work, really.
That was a
It
bad year, man.
Yeah, I think that kind of showed that things needed to step up as well, though, because when you look at it and you're like, this is what's winning Game of the Year as like an RPG. Like, I love Dragon Age. I will give it a very, 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 like I said, a lot of leniency. But like, if I'm gonna sit there and critique Bethesda and stuff for kind of standing still and being kind of generic in a lot of their design, like, man, Inquisition's some of the design choices that you chose to go with because you're trying so hard to make it an open world game to fit into the niche, but breaking out of the niche and becoming mainstream really
And
affected
it
that.
did.
Yep.
You know, it did. It was so big for them. It was their biggest game of all time. And like they kind of got pigeonholed into this weird, yeah, they really, which you can't blame them for what they did with Dragon Age, where it's like continually trying to find that audience because it sold well enough. One, Origin sold well enough, two sold well enough, but they were wanting to get beyond well enough. And
Mm.
yeah, but you know, you talked earlier about how like Gears of War, you brought that up for a second, and it'd be hard pressed to find a list of some of the most influential games of all time without Gears of War on it and Resident Evil 4 on it. Like that kind of 2 year run of RE4 reinventing what a third person shooter would be. And then Gears of War kind of, which I mean, you know, taking from Kill Switch, but Gears of War kind of becoming the new template for what a cover based third person shooter would be. Like that back to back little stretch from, you know, '05 to like 2007 when Mass Effect came out, and then you had Assassin's Creed, of course, which totally reinvented what parkour systems would become in third person. Like, dude, that was a good run of innovation for sure in like a very, very short period of time.
Yeah. That felt like there was a lot of flexibility still to be left in games of like exploring stuff, and it didn't feel like the foundations were set in stone. You still had things that were like, okay, this needs to be tweaked a little bit. This needs to be kind of feels like now, like you say, when you like boot up a showcase and stuff, and the amount of times people grunt on another Souls like, another this, another roguelike, like it's very
Yeah.
predictable now. For the genre, that you can still get like spice things up. Like there can be like Ball Pit, for instance, that just come out. Like it's a survivors like kind of thing, but it is doing its own little spin. But at the end of the day, it is still a roguelite at its core, um,
Yeah.
which is just kind of where the industry is at. I don't know if we're. I think that we are kind of just in that set in stone phase. I don't think we can really go anywhere else now, unless
You
you're
know,
moving into like VR and stuff like that. I think traditional gaming is kind of what it's going to be.
I don't know. I You know what I think the next step would be in terms of like narrative progression? I think that when we get to a space where we can do Spec Ops The Line style shit in big games, I think that will be
Ooh.
say, say for instance, like you're in a heist scenario, right,
Mm.
in a game, and you go in to rob the bank and you're the getaway driver. And you start hearing guns go off and you're hearing police officers like coming towards you. And you're in the car and you get to pick to stay and wait for them or to go in and help or to just flee. And you're like, fuck it, I'm not going to get my payday, but I'm going to save myself. And that active agency in terms of like in this moment, I'm not selecting anything from a dialogue wheel, which I don't think that should ever go away. I think people downplay the fuck out of how important that is in RPGs, which is just crazy to me when you look at Baldur's Gate 3 and like one of the big takeaways isn't like, oh yeah, people really like to influence their story. It's obvious to me that that's such a huge draw.
They because the reason it made it into the mainstream is because that's very easy for anyone to pick up to understand that that's like because this the thing as well is that it also offers you to do things outside of that dialogue wheel to affect what happens in the dialogue wheel. So like stealing an object will then if that's to trigger something in that conversation, it will then be influenced by that when you go into the dialogue thing. They'll be like, "Oh, my thing's been stolen," like that kind of thing. But you're still allowing at base here's your branching paths, so that people who that's
Right.
why it was so popular with casual people. They were able to get into it as a CRPG of all things and enjoy it. Like it's crazy.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and
Right.
that's balancing both things. Because I'm glad you pointed that out because it was you mentioned that in your building the perfect RPG, I think, video, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I did. I did.
And that's
Yeah.
what I
I'm
was gonna
sorry.
pull out, and you was like, "Oh, you did." You thankfully beat me to the punch and delivered it a lot better. But like that thing was perfect. I think that would be definitely the next step. But what I meant was like, I don't think we're gonna see much change overall in the genre. But how
Oh,
you're,
like mechanically.
yeah,
Right.
I think doing little tweaks here and there, like you said, with the narrative of you can still have dialogue wheels, but like you said, if you were sitting in that car in say a mafia game on the 360, whatever, you're kind of just you're waiting and
Yep.
you're waiting for something to play out. What if you had control over how that played out? What happens if Vito drove off and
Right.
then you were able to slightly? Like, this is the thing, like you can't really envision that being executed now, but in 50 years, when the technology gets better and better and better, and you're able to make it more and more reactive, imagine RPGs then of like being able to choose basically a choose your own storybook. That would be the next step for RPGs. Like it would be crazy to have
Right.
that level of just reactability.
Where it's like a telltale experience in terms
Mm,
of like you really are making so many choices, but to the point where you're actually involved in it. You're
mm,
actually playing the game, making the choices in real time. And yeah, I definitely think that and I think mechanically one of the, and this is a total different tangent, but I think one of the ways that we're going to evolve mechanically is just, it's the hard thing of like, okay, here's the Souls experience, here's the Arkham experience. If you're making an action adventure game, pick one. Or here's a third person cover shooter that was based on Gears of War and Resident Evil 4, and we haven't evolved beyond past that. Pick one of those three things for like your action adventure style games. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a problem. We need more templates. We definitely need more templates. And I think that a big area to improve upon is like the joke we always make about my problem with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 of not being able to attack the legs. It's like, why can't I press L2 and then use my analog stick to target limbs and shit? And like,
mm,
why can't I press L2 and hold L1 at the same time or press L2 and R2 at the same time and go for like a double leg takedown? And like, you know what? I want to really, we got a lot of sword games. We got a lot of shooting games. We got a lot of all this stuff, and we need more of it. Definitely. Put your dukes up, though. Like, it's such a universal language. Fighting, fist fighting. It's everybody in the world is gonna, if you see a fight taking place in the street, you're going to stop and watch. Like, it's the most universally appealing form of entertainment, and it's been that way forever. The Coliseum days, and like it's people love to watch motherfuckers because it's anybody can do it.
mm.
you know you're not everybody can do it well. I definitely can't do it well, but like I've got my head kicked in quite a few times in my life, and it can just happen. And so I think the spontaneity of like having stuff like that occur in the game space of just, oh damn, well here we are and we're in a fight. Like nobody gets, I shouldn't say nobody. Shootouts are not like some, you're not pulling out knives and swords, but like people get in fights every single day. And I don't know. I just think there's something universally appealing to that that needs to be expanded upon. X-Men the arcade game is it's just it's is number one
That's
on
what
my
we need to go
list.
back to, guys. The fisticuffs of X Men the arcade game. That is the future of gaming.
Oh man.
Alrighty.
Anywho, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. That Absalom game looks sick as shit too. That beat 'em up, roguelike beat 'em up.
Mm,
I haven't played it yet, but that looks really, really good. I need to jump into that.
yep. All right, your next entry.
Um,
You're you're back to back.
yeah, man, here we go. I'm sorry. This is the problem of uh, yeah. Anywho, Resident Evil 2 is my next pick on the list. It's how much more do you want me to talk about Resident Evil 2? Sound off in the chat. Has anybody not heard me say the same fucking 75 things about Resident Evil 2 that I've said for the last 75 years while creating
I don't think
content?
I've ever heard of this game. Never seen it in my life.
Yeah, it's a game based around Leon S. Kennedy and his second day on the job, and a viral outbreak occurs in the town of Raccoon City. And listen, it's the game that got me truly, truly, truly like the home console experience of sitting down. Like this was a system seller for me. I played it on my cousin's PlayStation 1 and I was like, Mom, please. Like, I will fucking do anything in the world. I promise you, I won't pretend that I'm sick for the next 6 months. And I will go to school every single day.
I'll wash all the
And
dishes. I'll fold all the laundry.
I'm telling you, man.
The
And
day
like,
after,
I,
they don't see you at all because you're in there playing
mm,
Resident Evil 2.
dude. And so my mom ended up getting me this system for Christmas one year. And I think it was for Christmas or it might have been my birthday, whatever. I actually have a photo of me opening the PlayStation 1 whenever I was like 5 years old, 4 years old, whatever it was, probably like 5 years old. And I was just so ecstatic. And this was the game where, because there's limitations with arcade games, right? Like you can't, they shut down the arcade at a certain point every night. And like I can't just binge it endlessly, but I just binged RE2. I mean, endlessly, dude. I played through that game from front to back. I don't want to say hundreds of times because, like, I don't know. Did I actually play it over 100 times? I have no idea. But, like, definitely in that 50 plus realm of, like, I've rolled credits on this thing 50 times more. You know, it's probably the single player game that I have replayed the most in my life. And now that it's available on PS5 through the PlayStation Plus premium catalog, and I think you can buy it as well, it's just like, that's trouble. That is real trouble. I will likely be playing that every single year from this point on. It's just nostalgia comfort food 101 for me. It's the game that made me really, really, really like I wanted to play everything after RE2. Into your Metal Gears, Siphon Filters, everything.
It's crazy. Maybe you don't feel the same way, but that's so incredibly rare to have that as a feeling, right? Of because there's
Yeah.
two avenues of that. There's what you're experiencing, where you're saying that you can replay it almost endlessly, like you can forever just roll, like do that. And then there's the other side where I very much love to see things to the end. So
Mhm.
for me, something that is truly standout and just in a league of its own is when I don't want it to end, which is so incredibly rare. And what,
Right.
because I've gone back to Dragon's Dogma 2, I never finished it,
Oh wow.
and decided to start it from the beginning again. And it's just, I'm like 3, 4 hours in it. It's just like, I remember why I didn't finish it. I don't want it to end. It just feels
Hmm.
so, I don't like, there's a warmth feeling like inside me of like just walking around and just being in that world. And the only other game that's come close to that as well was Marvel's Midnight Suns, which isn't like it's not a good game. Like as a whole, complete pack, it just has an incredibly addictive gameplay loop. Like it's things that it tries to do with like the social aspects. It's commendable, but it's not
I kind of
executed.
liked it.
Yeah, no, I like it as well, but it's not executed
Yeah.
like very particularly well. Like it was very kind of wobbly. I like it for what it is, but that is the only other game I can think of where I've still not finished it. I just every now and then, like every 6 to 8 months, re-download it. Do a couple more nights of the loop of doing a couple of missions and then coming back to the mansion and then just bouncing off of them, doing their little book club stuff, and yeah, it's just weird. And the same with yeah, like I said, Dragon's Dogma 2. Booted it back up, and it's just like it's just to me, it's so perfect in what it is trying to do. Like the narrative is whack.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing there. Like they wasted that opportunity as well to try and because it was the same in Dragon's Dogma 1. It's executed basically one to one the same way. Um, but it's just exploration and looting loop of that of just going into a cave and then something spontaneous happening. as well. That's what
Yeah.
they've mastered so well. Of this isn't like, I love Dark Souls, but for instance, every enemy is placed in a specific place in Dark Souls. There's no. That's why people so focus on randomizers and stuff. And the same with like Symphony of the Night and stuff. Like you can have these games that are your favorite of all time, but they can only be played to a certain point. Whereas when you add in a realm of randomness, is why roguelikes and roguelites are so popular, because that has it baked in innately. And that's the same with like Dragon's
Yeah.
Dogma 2, like just having things that never happened on that first playthrough already in like 3 hours in. And it's just like, I just remember why this game is so special.
Well, it's also like the thing Dragon's Dogma 2, one of the most impressive things about it is as we're like trying to figure out the next influential step, the next evolution for action-based games, I think a lot of that kind of is found in Dragon's Dogma 2. Like it's sure, it's not incredibly revolutionary in any one aspect, but I think the some of its parts when it comes together and you're seeing like, oh, I'm going to topple this giant over and now I have a new way to cross over this bridge that was previously inaccessible. And like there is a level of active agency of what you're doing in game is actually going to be reflected upon how you're able to traverse the world. And it's like just once again, nothing mind blowing. Yes, you were able to climb monsters in Shadow of the Colossus. I get it. But like there's just all of these combining elements in DD2, and literally combining elements of your different combat styles and like swapping in your what's the name of the system that they have
Vocations.
there? The vocations, like swapping them and mixing them in together and having like being able to create these builds that are a mishmash of two or of these different fighting styles combined into one and like just yeah, once again experimenting with player freedom in a variety of different ways. Like I think that's the we see so much about player freedom wanting that in open worlds and wanting that in stories, but also in gameplay. I think player freedom is
Mm-hmm.
really, really important of like, how can I play this game that is going to be very differently than how Loon plays it? And like we have water cooler discussion about just our build styles and the way we like to play the video game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that wasn't technically my entry. I just wanted to throw that in there because it was a perfect link into how you said about feeling about being able to infinitely replay um, RE2. I don't think
Right.
you can technically infinitely replay Dragon's Dogma as well. It has a cycle loop, kind of like Dark Souls. Both games have it baked in.
That
So,
I Yeah, that in game for Dragon's Dogma 2 is fucking filth. Like I don't want to spoil anything, but that is fucking filthy and just sort of the context, the setup for it. Nothing impressive narratively at all,
mm-hmm.
but in terms of like the world building context that's provided, it is filthy.
Yep, for sure. Um, I think I'll go with a little bit of a genre pivot here for myself, but it's aligning with you. The Evil Within 2 for me.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah. And this is like, you can. I never had any interest really in horror games. Um, they never gripped me. Like even like movies as well. Like they've never been something that was just like, man, I definitely got to check that. I've always been like fantasy, sci-fi, and stuff like that. Closest like to horror would have been like Alien and stuff like that. But yeah, never just sitting there and being like, yeah, man, I want to watch The Conjuring or whatever other horror films and stuff like that are kind of big. And I remember playing The Evil Within 1 and being very, very unimpressed on the 360. Being like, I don't really get this. Okay, I'll move on. And then I think I've said this a few times. Watched Indie Mouse cover. I think the first video I watched of him was, it would have been Hollow Knight, I think. And then he moved on to The Evil Within shortly after. And it was just like, oh, The Evil Within 2, I should add. And watching him play for it, and I was like, this looks really damn good. Like I don't remember The Evil Within 1 being this. Um, and having gone back and played it's definitely a change. Like they go down definitely different avenues in The Evil Within 2. You can tell that he was very proud of RE4. When you go into the Evil Within one, it's very kind of on the nose, that opening,
Yeah.
not the very opening segment when you're in the hospital, but the follow up to that when you're in the village is the beginning. It's just like, okay, I get it. You made RE4, we know. And because I hadn't played that, obviously there's no tie to that, so I didn't have that thing that a lot of people probably experience, where it's like, oh yeah, Shinji Mikami goodness. Um, let's get some more of it. So I didn't have that tie. That's why I bounced off it. And then with the Evil Within 2, it's so, it's not even, it's not open world. I don't like, it's very close to like balancing onto that. Like you get these zones that you're exploring and stuff, but the way they executed that, man, it has no right to be as good as it is. It's like, because what I'm thinking of is what I was critiquing Dragon Age Inquisition for. Like that tried to be an open world in its fullest sense, and it suffered for it. Whereas the other games before that kind of flirted with the idea of doing that, and it didn't suffer in that way. This is like, what if you want an, if you're not a traditional open world but you want to kind of push into that, look to the Evil Within 2 and how it did it, because it's the
Yes.
perfect balance of interjecting in these little scenarios and these little random events and stuff like that, but it's not huge. But it
Right.
feels big when you're inside of it because you're exploring these things, and then it kind of, it's like a spider's web. You go into like a building and then it opens up a little bit. And you're happy to explore all the nooks and crannies in that building because you're not going to get lost, because you'll come back out the building and then you're back to exploring that little
Right.
town thing. It's so perfectly done, in my opinion. And like the horror is perfect for me because I don't really care for jump scares. I've never really cared for them at all. And it's like body horror stuff is much more interesting, and psychological horror is a lot more interesting to me than just like smashing a bin with a cricket bat to try and get a reaction out of a player. And I think that's what the Evil Within 2 does so well. Like it has a moment or two of like jump scares, but a lot of it is just atmosphere. And then you have the section where it forces you into first person partway through the game. That was just
Mhm.
such a good
Yeah.
tonal shift, because it's, you got to the point where you had enough in your arsenal where you're like, man, I'm actually like, they're not posing as much of a threat. And then it's that kind of thing of like where you can tell somebody's been in the space designing games for so long, where they're like, you don't want them getting comfortable at the midpoint in the game. That comfortable. Let's try and make them feel vulnerable again, but not make it feel cheap. And them sections were pretty well designed as well in their own right. Because a lot of times when games restrict and pull back elements, it can kind of feel like, this is kind of shitty. But it felt really good and it made sense. It's just, I just love that game so much. I'm so disappointed that we're never probably going to likely see a
No.
third game in that series, because it's, yeah,
Yeah.
so damn good.
It's one of the greatest survival horror games ever made, Evil Within 2, like definitively, in my opinion. And I think one of the things about it as well, like on top of the open world, which you hit on brilliantly, it is the fact that you can go into these locations and there's depth and verticality and like, oh, this building is 3 stories and now I'm roaming around there, but it's like also 3 stories that doesn't feel overwhelming. Like it doesn't feel
Mm,
like you're in the Raccoon City Police Department when you go in. Like it's like a house. Like I'm going into this house and there's stairs and I'm going up and I'm searching the rooms and oh, now there's this ladder that leads down into a sewer, but it's like very, very get in, get out, and then the world repopulates with the monsters that you just recently killed, like the biggest bads in the game world that you killed in the like linear design, because that's it segments it off where it's linear design and open world design, and the open world is as engaging as you want it to be, or you don't really have to engage with it. I mean, there's a few missions where you do, but yeah, it's a great design. But I think too, when you're looking at RE9 and the rumors of it being a little bit more open zone and open world, it's like there's your design template right there. The Evil Within 2, that's the benchmark for I think I would rather it be more like that and less like a Days Gone.
mm,
Either one, I'm curious to see how it works in either scenario, because they're talking about having vehicles for Leon and motorcycles and stuff like that. But I'm very curious. Can I just walk into the Raccoon City Police Department at some point and then walk out and then I'm like exploring different aspects of like an expanded version of RE3? You know, like is it going to be a small scale open world like The Evil Within 2? It's just I do think that that game is and also just so cinematic.
Hmm.
It doesn't get nearly enough credit for it. It is a cinematic just it goes gung ho with its presentation. Like that game is so atmospheric, so cinematic. You
Its
can just sit there and especially The Evil Within 1, man.
its pacing as well is near flawless in that second game because it's not even a short game either, but it doesn't feel like it
No.
drags. Because this is something I'll dive into this deeper when we talk about the games that we played in the month. I did the horror event thing. I knocked out about 6 games and I'm tapped out. I've had my fill.
It
I've had my fill
yeah.
because and the thing is that I got to the end of a lot of them games and I just have the feeling that a lot of horror games are just poorly paced as well. Like Alien Isolation, you can cut a few hours out of that game and it wouldn't suffer. RE4, the original, you could cut a few hours out of that game and it wouldn't suffer. Like there's yeah, for me it's just when I can feel things in a horror game standing still, that's probably one of the most damaging things because it's meant to be atmospheric and intense. So when there's a long lull period, because this happened specifically in Alien Isolation was the last one that I did, and it was just like, what are we doing? Like nothing is happening, and you're wanting me to go like, it's cool that you've made hands down, like I will not deny this, the best feeling Alien game for atmosphere and stuff like that. But when nothing is happening and it's just going through the motions to just go through the motions, it just the thing like you need to shorten that length. Because I was talking to the people in the Discord and it felt like it was going to be over in like 10 hours. I was like, because they were talking about, oh, it's like an 18-hour game, 20-hour game. I was like, what? I'm like halfway through like the chapters. There's no way. I'm like 6 hours in. How is this? And I came back a few hours later and I was like, yeah, those estimates are right. Like, I don't know what the hell happened in the second half of the game. They really stretched that out. It was like they presented it to Sega, and Sega was like, we can't sell this for full price at this length. You need to, like, hit this bar, and they just stretched it. And that's something that really didn't feel like happened in the Evil Within 2. It just felt so perfectly paced.
You know, an interesting thing as well is like there is just a level of repetition in this genre that is it's impossible to ignore. Like if you play three horror games back to back to back, you better be damn certain that you're playing three very different horror games because like if you play, you know, two first person horror games back to back, you're probably playing almost the exact same game. If you play two third person horror games back to back, you're probably playing damn near the same game. And like that's great for a yearly rollout where you only have three of them in a year. And it's like, yeah,
Mm,
three of them in a year. But whenever you're like backlogging it and you're like in the groove wanting to play horror, it's like, oh damn, these games start to blend together very, very closely to a point of almost indistinguishable between
yep.
the two. So it's that's a problem.
Yep. So, yep. Evil Within 2 for me. What's your next one?
All right. Once again, staying with my younger self here, so I like the balance in between us. But WWF SmackDown from 1999. This was the first truly great wrestling game on my console. You know, the console that I owned, the PlayStation 1, was plagued with dog shit wrestling games. Attitude and I'm forgetting the name of the other. But it had the Attitude and the other game that was very similar to Attitude that I'm just completely blanking on the name of right now. But it those games were rough. And people have nostalgia for those titles. I'll give them credit where it's due. It felt more like a fighting game than a wrestling game, but sure, decent for some people. I thought they were horrible. WWF SmackDown, 1999. This thing comes out and it's not No Mercy, which, once again, I played No Mercy and I played, you know, WCW versus NWO Revenge, and I played these Aki N64 games. WrestleMania 2000, I've played them. Um, but those weren't really my like once again, my cousin had all the consoles and I would play those games with him. I loved them, but I didn't own that system. And whenever I got the PlayStation 1, like very shortly after I got the PS1, or maybe it was already out when I got the PS1, but the game I got first with the PS1 was RE2, and then I got WWF SmackDown. And those were like, that was my go-to two games. And it was a combination because it's the thing that I was talking about earlier of not being a super fan of anything.
Mm.
Like I'm not a super fan of any one game. You could maybe say Resident Evil or Grand Theft Auto, but like even there, I don't think I'm a super fan to the degree that super fans are. Like
Yeah.
I'll shit on those games, and uh, like I don't have that thing in me where I'm like protective. I don't like I truly don't care at all if I hear someone completely dog Resident Evil or Grand Theft Auto. Like it does nothing to my mood or I could give a total fuck less. But the one thing in my entire history of being on this planet that I'll say I was a super fan of was the Attitude Era of WWF. I was all consumed by that. And still to this day, like if you were to sit me down and do trivia for Attitude Era from 1997 to like 2003 or so, start of the Ruthless Aggression Era,
We'll be
I'm
going home
clearing all that
millionaires.
trivia for
Top
certain.
prize, baby.
I loved it so much, and I even there I'm definitely like once again my cousin was a real fan, and I guess that's the thing is I compare myself to like the people who I see who are like die hard, and I just don't feel as die hard about anything as like certain people that I see. So like, I even in that space I was lesser than a lot of people, but I loved the Attitude Era of wrestling, and so to have a game where it's like exactly like all the roster members, not all, but a lot of the roster members and having them represented in game form and just being able to play my favorite style of entertainment in the world, which number one at this point was wrestling, was the WWF. That was my favorite form of entertainment on the planet. And then it was kind of like video games were becoming my
Mm.
favorite form of entertainment with RE2 and this era of getting the PlayStation 1 and then getting introduced into Blockbuster and like growing from like whatever 5 years old into early teenage years or preteen years, like I became obsessed with games. And but that clash, that perfect clash of finally getting a great wrestling game on my system and I think that it was in terms of influence, for me, it was the influence of like what I was already so influenced by, influencing what I was growing to love.
Mm.
That kind of perfect marriage there.
Yeah, that's amazing when that happens. When things clash at the perfect time.
Yeah, and it's the thing that people don't give enough credit to license games for. I always tell people like if you're looking to get a girlfriend, a friend, a relative, a boyfriend, whatever, someone who doesn't play games, one of the key things to start off with is to go, hey, like what do they love?
Mm.
Do they love Star Wars? Well, pick up fucking Jedi Survivor. If they love Harry Potter, pick up Hogwarts. If they love wrestling, pick up, WWE 2K25 or, whoa, depending on the system that you own. But like pick up something that they love. And that is a almost surefire bet to influence their later, like, because you're going to start understanding controls. But the reason you're going to start understanding controls is because you're understanding them in something that you already love so much.
You have the patience to sit by and learn a completely new skill set because it's in an IP that you're not having to divert your attention to learning who this character is because you already know who it is or you already know what the world is like. So you don't have to worry about being overwhelmed by, booting up a game and then being, you know, thrown shitloads of jargon. And you're just like, I'm. How do you move? And you're telling me about like the 2,000 year history of all of these people and
Right.
what they've experienced. Like this is overwhelming, man.
Well, it's back to that same thing of the universal language of fighting, right? Where you throw me into something like some high fantasy game or whatever, and it's like equip your mana booster deluxe pack like all of these terms of like shit that you cannot relate to at all unless you're already entrenched in those fantasy worlds or in those sci-fi worlds or whatever. All the terminology, like you're thrown into such a deep end where there's just an immediate that's once again why I'm very keen on the next evolution of video game mechanics in the action space being more fist fight centric because it is like it can be as in depth as you want it to get, but there is just a simple like fundamental understanding of punch, kick, grab. Like these are things that just you intrinsically immediately understand, and then you just start layering depth onto like an immediate understood language of fighting.
Yep, absolutely. All right, WWF. He said, what was it? 2019
SmackDown, the
SmackDown 99.
yep, the from 1999, the first one that released, and of course you would go on to the SmackDown versus Raw 2006 is probably the most influential game in terms of like it made me understand my favorite video game mode ever, which is GM mode. But um, that's the influence started with 1999's SmackDown.
Let's go with this one first, actually, because then this can tie in back to back. Um, right. I know you're sick of this. It's a genre that's taken over, but Souls lags, baby. Let's go.
Oh, without a doubt.
Um, Dark Souls, man. I think most people, unless you came into this series a lot later, so when you were diving in during Demon Souls, and then if you didn't own a PlayStation, obviously Dark Souls for 360 players like myself was the first exposure. You kind of have the same origin story of you played a very obtuse game that didn't make any sense. It was very difficult and you didn't like it. And then when people who stuck by were stuck by it and had perseverance, that could peel back the layers, they could get through, deeper into the game, getting to Anor Londo and stuff like that. Then it was just like, holy shit, okay, we have something special. And those players whipped back and were so loud because it was like, do not sleep on this. Like this is the next best thing. This is the next like thing that will take over gaming. And obviously you can look back on it and it very much has. You look at Elden Ring being that game that broke into the mainstream with its heavy DNA formula, just adapting it into an open world. And yeah, man, like you haven't played Dark Souls, have you? Any of them?
I dude, I played Elden Ring. That was I played a little bit of Bloodborne, a little bit of Elden Ring. It's not a style of game that I just and it's really not like a difficulty thing so much as it's just like a speed thing. I don't like the methodical nature. I think Sekiro might be the one that would be more up my alley, but it's once again back to the point of like over the over fandom of one way or the other. Like it's undeniable to me that this is of our lifetime, easily, easily one of the top 10 most influential games, either pick Demon Souls or Dark Souls, easily one of the most top 10 influential games of our lifetime.
Yeah, it spawned because Demon Souls came out and it kind of had it was the niche community. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe it came out and it was a complete failure. Sold really, really poorly, and then it kind of traveled via word of mouth, in much like the way that Dark Souls One did. Dark Souls One had the benefit of being obviously everywhere, and that's why it spread like wildfire. Unlike Demon Souls, which was enclosed onto the PS3. So when people heard about it, they was like, "Well, I don't have a PS3." So you're either PC or Xbox player. It's it still baffles me that we because you haven't played it. There are like aspects of that game that are downright like 1 out of 10 as well. Like you're talking about a game that launched and one of the biggest difficulty curves was the fact that one of the areas that you went into ran at like 5 frames a second. But the game is that special that you look at how you don't. If you go into the fandom, you'll hear of people bitching about Blighttown, but that doesn't usually make its way out of that. echo chamber because it's drowned out by like the amount of positivity and how special that game is that you would get that far into the game and probably be the same way of being like, wow, this is rough as shit, but I'll stick by it. I'll see where this is going. This has earned enough of like I want to see where this is, and thankfully with that remaster that came out, they did fix that. But yeah, I've never had a game where it's beaten me that badly to the point where it's you leave feeling like you never want to touch that again, only to come back later and it be one of your favorite things of all time. Because you come back with a completely fresh perspective and being like, I understand it now. I fully get it. Like, I want to know everything about this game. Like the lore and stuff like that is told in such a particular way where you're not you have conversations with the NPCs and stuff like that, but it's very kind of cryptic and very poetic, and they mince their words, and it's all raveled in mystery and mystique. And what you end up finding is that when you roll credits on the game, you look back on it and you're like, you were told more of the story through visual than you were through dialogue, which is so rare to see in a game, and it do it that well where it's like you can piece the things together of what they were saying, being like, that makes sense now. I get okay, that's what that means, and that's why that happened and stuff like that. It's just yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah. It's undeniably like, you know, yeah, like I said, one of the most influential games of our lifetime. I mean, you probably could even say top five most influential games of our lifetime.
I
I don't, it'd be tough to GTA 3, RE4, Half-Life, fucking Shenmue. Like it's somewhere in there though, for sure.
Yeah, because it spawned its own genre. This is the thing. Like you can't. That's the thing when
Yeah.
you can't deny something when it spawns its own genre is when it's
Mm.
like you can enjoy other games, but like it broke into its own complete different design philosophy.
Interesting tangent here, but what about roguelikes? Isn't that kind of wild? Like, I don't know if anyone would look at Rogue as like the main touchstone for the influential nature of that genre, which obviously it is, but
It's the thing because
what?
people get mixed up roguelikes and roguelites. A lot of people fall back on calling things roguelikes when they're not roguelikes because what Rogue was is it would give you there was no you wouldn't carry anything forward. So when games are true roguelikes, they're very, very much less popular because things people like having progression systems in their
Stagnant.
game. So
Yeah.
they like that kind of thing. And that's why when somebody plucks a genre, so the rogue of that, and then just ever so slightly tweaking it. Because that's what Dark Souls is like it's so heavily influenced by like Symphony of the Night in the way of its like backtracking and stuff like that. But it doesn't just stop there. It could have just had backtracking, but it mixes in, like I said, with the visual representation, doing it so well. Because when you look at a landmark in Dark Souls 1, it's not just like in Call of Duty where it's a back setting drop. You can have beautiful games that have these backgrounds, but you never go to them backgrounds. In Dark Souls, you do. You have no map. That is your main form of navigation. Is being like, I don't know where to go, but there's a big ass castle over there. That's probably where you need to go. That's kind of obvious and stuff like that. So yeah, it's the perfect mixing of it, and that's kind of where like roguelites um, excelled so much, like Isaac and stuff like that. Like they've done so well in pulling out a particular thing and just adding their own spice to it.
Yeah. And I think too, like when you look at Metroid and you look at Symphony of the Night and then Castlevania, whatever, it's just you do start to be like, okay, well, are roguelikes really it, it it's kind of always been a thing, right? Like it's just in a different form. You know what I mean? But like restarting your game after you've lost a certain amount of lives, like there's a, of course, that's different in terms of you only get one life in a lot of these roguelikes and you're back to square root one. But
Hmm.
it's yeah, it maybe not as influential of a design philosophy as something like Dark Souls, where it's like, oh my God, they created an entire combat system that is now, which Arkham, you got to throw Arkham in there as well.
Yeah.
Arkham and Dark Souls, those two kind of go hand in hand of like, those are the two combat systems for third person action adventure games like Point Blank, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there we go. Dark Souls will be my third pick.
For my fourth one on the board here, I'm going to go with Indigo Prophecy. And this is a weird selection, I'm well aware, but I think of, we talked about earlier just how influential and how important choice and consequence in games is to me. And like, I think that that is one of the main draws for this hobby. Like now, where I find my favorite games, most of them do offer up some form of player agency in terms of affecting the story. And like, I think that this was the first game I ever played where I witnessed that really happen, where what I was choosing to do, even in that first opening level of like, oh, how I choose to clean up this dead body and how I choose to hide the weapons and how I choose to, like, that's going to affect the police officer being able to find, being able to investigate and find clues and that tracks back to me. And once again, like real-time active agency that you're mechanically inputting other than just dialogue responses. Like there's actually some pretty cool shit going on in Indigo Prophecy that was way ahead of its time. However, it is a janky mess of a video game. I'm well aware of that, but I just think in terms of like when building this list, I was thinking of those kind of spiritual awakening moments
Mm,
for this hobby where I'm like, oh my God, this thing, this specific thing does something that like lights a new fire
yeah.
for a new way of consuming this hobby that I never really thought about before. And sure, you had choose your own adventure books and all that stuff, but I think in this medium, playing a video game actively having some sort of say in where things go based on your choices and then seeing that represented visually is so damn addictive to me. Like to think that there could be a totally different way that this could have played out if I chose something differently and actually being able to see it. Like they have it a little bit in movies now. They had that, what was that, Anna Kendrick movie or whatever on Netflix a while back that had some of that choose your own adventure stuff. But I don't know, something about it in the video game space, like because this was well before all of that, but something about it just, I don't, I'm not saying this is how all stories should be. I love a Last of Us. I love a good, handcrafted, curated experience of Metal Gear Solid, but like, damn, man, there is just something about giving the player a few different ways of seeing something and feeling like you chose the path that you're on now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because you have, when you think of all of the greatest games of all time that did that, you think of like The Witcher 3 and stuff like that. It gives you choice, multiple endings. People think very dearly of Skyrim and stuff like that. Even that game had, to a degree, choice. You could
For
side with
sure.
different factions and stuff like that. It's yeah, and it what you'll always find as well because you were saying you understand it's a janky mess, dude. So was Dark Souls 1. This is what makes me
Right.
laugh is that people, they don't like critiquing the things they love. It didn't. It had rolling. You could roll forward, backwards, left, and right in Dark Souls 1. It was very stiff. It was in the remaster where they added omnidirectional rolling, like you would have in a modern action game. But like, it was very very stiff. And it's usually when games are trying to be very very ambitious, they do lose sight of sometimes the basics because they're so laser focused on trying to execute their vision. And I think they're the games that I find most dear as well and very um end up getting attached to. So like Deadly Premonition for existence for an example is very very flawed, but
Oh yeah.
it's unlike anything else. There's no
Oh
other
yeah.
horror game that does what that game does, and I don't think there ever will be again. Um, and it's just special. It's so unbelievably clunky. The combat is downright dreadful. but you're just there for the experience. It's just like you're seeing art take place, and that feels so rare.
Well, as well is like, it's funny to have this conversation about influence because influence kind of means that someone else was able to do it, right?
Mhm.
Where like this thing influenced something else that did something similar. I think an interesting tangent topic that I don't know how we would ever make a fucking video about it because I have no idea if there's even a title here, but like games that were too good to be influential, like it was impossible to influence because it was impossible to emulate. And I do think to like the Mass Effect trilogy of like, holy fuck, dude. We don't talk about this enough. A trilogy of games came out where your choices went from one to the next, and they accounted it, like you put in a new disc for each game and you still had your choices from your previous save. That is fucking crazy. That level of I don't even know what you call that. It's impossible to
Impact.
influence because it just
It was the level of impact because it wasn't the thing that some games have done. Um, Maybe they pulled some actions into the second game, but then they kind of retcon stuff in the third game. There was stuff in like if you had it on PC in particular because it was so much easier to transfer your saves. It was so easy to look and be like, I made this decision in Mass Effect 1 and it's carried all the way to Mass Effect 3 and I'm being rewarded with something. Maybe there's like something in like your captain's quarters, or maybe when you're at the galactic readiness there's an extra squad
right.
in there. That doesn't mean that's not gonna break the world in like groundbreaking stuff, but it shows that okay, they were paying attention. I made a choice and
Mm,
it's pulled all the way from what was it, 2007 all the way to
yes.
like 2012. That's insane.
Crazy, dude. And it's like, the weirdest thing about it is that now would be the most optimal time to do something like that again because we have the cloud saving
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure and the backwards compatibility
Yeah,
where it's like
because they had to
you
rely
actually
on because Dragon Age also implemented that system, but it was tied to their I think it was called the Dragon Age Vault. I think is what it is. It's
yeah,
fucking some terrible fucking website, and it's just like, man, I wish this worked. Because a lot of people unfortunately went through the Dragon Age games on consoles and didn't transfer their saves because online gaming wasn't like as set in stone
right.
as it is now. So people didn't care about keeping their saves and stuff, and didn't care about connecting their email to this, that, and everything else. So they didn't have the thing, and it would just default like, for instance, Inquisition. It would just pull in a generic Hawk because it also was a thing where it is a cross generational game, so it couldn't pull your save from the 360 unless you went and did it through the Vault thing, and it's just like it's unfortunate because now, like you said, it would be perfect.
Well, and it's the thing too, Loon, where you got to also take into account that a big reason why this can't be done today is often cited like, well, games take too long to develop. But it's like, so if everything is backwards compatible from this point moving forward, those saves are accessible
Mm-hmm.
for from now to infinity theoretically. So like, yeah, you could take 14 years to develop your trilogy and have all your like that'd be ridiculous. And I kind of get why you wouldn't do that because holy shit, why are we waiting 14 years to play through games? But it's yeah, there was a special time and place. But yeah, Indigo Prophecy, my fourth choice.
Right, linking in with. Oh, I didn't even link in with the thing, but I'll do it when I'm talking about this. Pillars of Eternity 1.
There you go.
And the reason I was saying linking in is because Dark Souls, the reason it blew up in the way that it did, not only is it because it's an amazing game, you had a very dedicated group of people who made lore videos. And that was like a massive, massive thing. You had like Vati made his own like career out of doing that to the point where he's acknowledged by FromSoft, and I think he's wrote some stuff for FromSoft for some of their like guides and stuff like that. And the same thing happened with Pillars of Eternity for me, and it's my boy Mort who I constantly shout out. he didn't always do the reviews after 100%. That's he began his venture with, I think it started with, I don't know which came first. It was either Divinity Original Sin 2 and One Law or Pillars of Eternity. He began with one and he just excelled at it. And it's the thing of like he excelled at it because he loved every aspect of the game. So even something that somebody would slightly overlook, he's able to just pinpoint onto it and just, oh, that's this, and just give such a descriptive take on every aspect of the game. And that's like why it was so immediately like influential and impactful for me, because I loved the way that the Dark Souls community handled lore. So when I saw his videos, it was like it's a different genre. It's gone from being obviously in the Souls like third person action thing to being a CRPG, but you can see that there's this level of depth and richness, and there's a reason to be invested clearly. And that kind of like got me my foot in the door, and then I just fell in love with it. It's just it's such a good CRPG of it's Obsidian's writing like what we all know from like Fallout New Vegas and stuff like that. But like when you're sitting there and you're going through every aspect of it, every side quest, and it's just like it's just them puffing their chest of them being like, we can make fun playing games, of course. But do you know what we're the best at? We're the best at telling a fucking damn good story. And that is what I left feeling with Pillars of Eternity 1 and Pillars of Eternity 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I it is kind of wild playing Avowed and hearing the stories and like the cool shit about, not to spoil anything, but the whole island kind of thing that you were telling me about of
Yeah.
yeah, anywho, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's so just crazy that a game of such scale with Avowed and like enhanced visual fidelity, yada yada yada, and but yet it still feels so limited compared to what you were telling me about. It
Exactly.
is kind of wild.
Because there's that particular moment which we won't spoil, which was a massive, massive thing. But you also just had in Pillars of Eternity 2 just big ass monsters, which
Right.
maybe like you played it through to the end. I obviously didn't with the save corruption thing. I didn't see any like gigantic like titans fighting. Like there were
No, there
boss
really
fights and
weren't.
stuff of named characters, but it was very just generic. It felt very safe is the word I'll say for that. Like you would go into Pillars of Eternity 2 and you have your ship where you're going around the Deadfire archipelago, weaving in and out of these islands, and then you're like, okay, I'll see what's on this island, and you get on it, and there's just some 50-foot fucking titan on a beach, and it's just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna fight this guy, and it's just you don't have that kind of wow moment in Avowed. It's a beautiful. The combat's really enjoyable and fun. The the delivery of dialogue and what they write is pretty good, but it just feels short of Pillars of Eternity in that way.
Well, a thing too is like I think that game is so well made in terms of the combat and movement and just sort of the kind of even the platforming I think is ridiculously good
Mm,
for a first person RPG. And
really
it's
smooth.
like, but you know what it makes me think about sometimes, Loon, is like I look at the common conversation around game development of like we can't be waiting 6 years, 7 years to get these games. And then I look at something like Avowed, I'm like, damn, I wonder what that would have looked like if it was 300 people on it taking 7 years to make it. Like, I'm not saying I want that, right? But it alternate timeline, what if, like, I wonder, what if that was the had the depth and the rich sort of lore and backstory and it had the scale and the
Mm,
feel and like, you know what I mean?
I don't. I'm the opposite way. I don't think you can do that with 300 people. I don't know how big the team was in Avowed. It wasn't that many. I don't think it wasn't in.
Like 100.
But what it felt like is that they had to. It felt like more of a showcase to Microsoft than Xbox of like we
Mm.
can't put out a game and it run like shit in the way like Alpha Protocol because we'll get axed. because they're looking over their shoulder like, well, hi-fi did that,
Right.
and then they got like they just played it so safe, and that's the unfortunate thing about it. Um, it felt like they hyper focused on making sure there was no
Rough
stiffness. There's
edges,
no
yeah.
there's no roughness to the moment to moment gameplay because that's what most people care about. A lot of people aren't going to care about hearing about the Deadfire Archipelago and what happened to AFS and stuff like that because
Of
they didn't
course.
play. For one, they didn't play the games, and for two, there's so many people that play games that they just skip dialogue. So what's more important to them is making that polished product, and that's what's really unfortunate because it feels like it was a game designed in mind to just skip dialogue almost. It just there was very little there.
Yeah.
You had like a few
God.
nuggets here and there, where it's like, holy shit, you brought like Inquisitor Lodwin back. That's really,
But
really
that's the
cool.
thing, it's like that appeals to
To the
Pillars fans, and
300
you're trying
people,
not to,
to the 300
yeah.
people that you've alienated as well. It's like,
And it's
oh
like
hell yeah, and then they do nothing with it,
you
and you're like, what the fuck was the point in that?
and then you tell me all these cool stories that are so like grand in scale feeling, and then it's like you're creating a game that's based in this universe that is grand in scale in its entirety, and
Yeah,
like the grandeur, the level of expansiveness feels more restrictive compared to like it's very wild how bigger, better, more polished can sometimes come at a cost of like the soul just not
yeah.
being there anymore.
Yeah, because like the best way of describing it, because you never played it, of course, but like the amount of influence and importance the gods had in them first two games, and how absent they are in Avowed,
Right.
for the most part, was
Right.
shocking. It was unbelievably shocking because it would be like, for instance, like going to Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, and then just having, oh, there's no Turians and there's no council and there's no this and there's no that. But guess what there is? There's this one brand of new alien and it's just like, what? That's the what? That's the core pillar, pun intended, of the game.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole point. Like they are meant to have influence over the world. They have importance over stuff. And yeah, it just felt very badly executed, and it's so disappointing. And it's I hold out hope that they'll make a Pillars of Eternity 3, but my worry on top of that is that if Microsoft looked at that and wanted them to make that instead, when they get round to making Pillars of Eternity 3, it's not going to be the one I want because it will be like, well, if you're going to make a CRPG, it has to be exactly like Baldur's Gate 3,
Yeah,
and
it will
I
be.
don't want that. And that's the unfortunate thing
Yeah.
of like this is what happens unfortunately with when something's niche and then gets bought up by a big entity and then they want to turn it into
Yeah.
something else. It's just like, well, okay, this hurts, but you guys need your jobs. I won't shit on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, dude, I guess kind of a interesting tie to my fifth entry here, Grand Theft Auto 3, in terms of, you're taking one and two, Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2, this very niche, very specific style of game that appeals to a specific style of audience of maybe 500,000 people, and then they make Grand Theft Auto 3, and then, take two, prints 500,000 copies, puts it out there into the wild, and oh boy, it sold a lot more copies than 500,000. And if I'm not mistaken, I was watching an interview recently, and I think that they were saying that it pretty much saved Take-Two from bankruptcy at the time. And
Yeah, a lot of people forget that
yeah,
of how many like we hear about it now of like, oh, game developers are struggling and like it's very hard to like stay alive and stuff. Dude, like Final Fantasy, the reason it's named Final Fantasy is because it was potentially Sakaguchi's final ever like project. If it failed, that was it. Like Square was shutting them down, or Enix, sorry. And yeah, it's just crazy to think, like you said, with this being in the kind of same wheelboat. Like if this would have failed, they would have shut down, and it
yeah,
just the indies exploded into both of them games. It's crazy.
You're talking about the best-selling games of that era, the PS2 era. You're getting around, 10 million copies for the best of the best of the best of the best. Like, if you sold 10 million games in the PS2 era, you were a certified bona fide fucking smash hit. And these like doubled that. These games were selling 20 million copies a piece. In that era, that was an anomaly, dude. That did not happen at all. And they all did it back to back to back, but it was off the back of that one game. Grand Theft Auto 3 comes out and like I had never even thought that this could happen. Like, I never thought I could just go jack any car inside of a game world and drive it around. I never thought I could literally shoot, kill, fight any character, any NPC that's walking around in this living, breathing world. Like, I never thought that, man. I never thought in my wildest dreams I would be able to do that in game form. And you are able to do all of that in game form. And I mean, this just influenced in terms of specific, specifying like what that kind of means in this context is like when I think of the influence that it had on my perception of games, it felt like before Grand Theft Auto 3 and after Grand Theft Auto 3
Mm-hmm.
where I knew games were one thing before Grand Theft Auto 3. And then I think the way I look at games now is all because of Grand Theft Auto 3, where that was the first time I'd ever played something where I was like, anything's possible. You can do anything with this art form, with this medium. And, as a kid, I guess I would have been, what, 7, 8 years old, whatever. And I am playing this and like I have played so much because I know it sounds crazy, a 7-year-old playing so I after RE2, it was a fucking wrap.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to play everything, man. And like I loved Twisted Metal so much. And I loved Siphon Filter so much. And Resident Evil and Metal Gear. Ding! I got Siphon Filter and Twisted Metal pushed into one game, and it's like, oh my, are you fucking kidding me? It was just, it was everything I ever could have wanted. And it was from that point, it was like, right, we're going places, man. Like this industry, this hobby, this entertainment, this art form is about to, like, we're going to see some crazy shit happen on a technical level that, like, I, and like you said earlier, those breakthroughs are not happening as frequently. And so some of that wonder is gone a little bit. Some of that lust for the next innovative step in this hobby is diminishing a bit for sure. But man, this was like it was like watching in real time. When people talk about Nirvana comes along and stomps out like the hair metal, the hair metal rock and roll scene. Like this was truly watching something come along and just steamroll everything that had been and everything that will be is based around this fundamental like the way that the map is designed, the way that like the freeform 3D open space of NPCs having dynamic interaction and like this whole thing that's like built around this one game. Like it was yeah, I can gush about it all day, but it was so damn influential in my life and just in general. Just
Oh yeah,
Jesus Christ, man.
no denying its influence on gaming as a wider scale as well. Showing what it truly meant to be an open world sandbox.
Yeah. Really like the first legit one, you know what I mean? Like, of course you had stuff that was open like but like you said an open world sandbox. It was the first one in the 3D space that was offering like this type of experience and you really had nothing but this for 16 years. Like I mean, there were a couple, right? Like Shadow of the Colossus, I guess, took a different stab at it, but by and large, like this same style of map, Far Cry 3, I got to give some love there, did some different things for sure, but really until
Yeah,
you get to like Breath of the Wild.
Assassin's Creed 1 as well. Like you mentioned before, like it kind of gets forgotten because the Far Cry 3 kind of seemed to be more don't know what the word would be. People have held on to that memory a lot more happily than AC1, maybe because AC1 just doesn't hold up as well. But like its open world is for its time was crazy. Like you're talking about full parkour, climb everything that was in that world. It's crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I'm talking about like the actual like in Far Cry 3 definitely takes a lot of influence from GTA 3 as well, but like I think the thing that Far Cry 3 did to advance the and no doubt parkour was a huge step forward for the open world genre and a lot of games started to ape even Arkham, with City, a lot of Assassin's Creed influence in there, but I think Far Cry 3 the thing that was so surprising to me that was so standout like you could kind of tackle missions just however the fuck you wanted. And that
Mm-hmm.
was one of the more restrictive elements of Grand Theft Auto that I always kind of had a problem with. It was like, damn, I have to do this the one way you want me to do it. Like,
Yeah,
San Andreas kind of remedied that a little bit, but even they would get back into that restrictive sort of philosophy with GTA 4 a little bit more, and even into Red Dead 2, some of that mission structure is a little bit too restrictive.
yeah, it's kind of difficult as well, especially like Red Dead, because it's balancing trying to make a cinematic masterpiece at the same time. Like
Hmm.
it's almost like they're trying to make a movie that you can play. So every now and then it does have to kind of like yank you on the rails because like it's why Uncharted is so beloved and stuff like that. Like a lot of them early on, it was fairly on rails when you think about it, or it's a lot of
Oh yeah.
kind of the illusion that you're doing stuff yourself, but it's not. Um, it's fairly linear in its way of doing it. But yeah,
Well,
crazy.
you, it's like I think Grand Theft Auto it is time. I will say that. Like with 6 and I'll be critical. I think everybody knows I will happily criticize things I love, but with Grand Theft Auto 6, it's time to move past those like those rails to some degree. And you do want a cinematic narrative driven, like you got to have that, of course. But at the same time, like you're the guy and you have been the guy since 2001. It's 2026. Like step up. You know what I mean? Like show us what you're working with. You got more money than God. Show us what you're working with, you know. Reinvent everything again. And not to say reinvent everything again like as in go in and don't do anything
You
that you've
use
done in the
the
past like
analog sticks to move each of his legs.
right. Like let's not be silly. But but how about in a heist? If I start hearing the guns go off, I get to drive away, and then like there's no mission failed, return to mission screen. Like just things like that, or the takedown system. Like just something. Give me something that's like, oh,
Yeah, early
never
early
seen that
signs
before.
of it. Exact because you could even, as of right now, I think it would be very difficult to pull that off in like a main story sense. I think it would be a very big ask, but you could tie that easily to like a side quest of like when you're say you're going through GTA 6 and they
Right.
hand you somebody who's like a lower person. He's like in the very like early game and he's like, I can help you make some money.
Like who gives a fuck,
And who
right?
gives a fuck about him if he dies or whatever? So you can tackle that entirely 100% how you want. Like you could throw him under the bus. You could help him out. And then it would just be a very it's a one and done thing in like 30-ish minutes at max.
Well, Loon, it's kind of exactly what you're talking about with the Evil Within too, where it's like take the open world and make of it what you will. Like you can engage with it however you want to, and you can go out and fight all those new bosses who repopulate the world. Like you can do with it what you will, but there's also like a very linear, very directed, very curated experience on
Mm-hmm.
top of that. And like that would be a really interesting way to like fuse the RP systems into
Yeah.
single player.
No, exactly. And I think they would be very much capable of that. And it would be received in a very similar way to I don't know if you remember when The Witcher 3 dropped. And obviously very early on there was a quest where it was a frying pan quest, a very like kind of just a throwaway one thing. And
It's
people
so funny, dude.
fixated on that because you could do the quest beforehand and come back to her and it would change and like that was so mind blowing That's the kind of like when GTA 6 drops and you're 2 weeks down the line, that's the kind of content that they need to have be putting out of like that level of further of it's taking games to that next level in a way of doing that. Like we've not seen it before where technically it had been done, but this is the thing of like when it's been done in the mainstream to that degree, a lot of people haven't seen it. So to them people it is brand new. And that's kind of like what you'd want to see of them doing that in that side quest of being like, look how reactive these side quests are in GTA 6. You can choose whatever way you want to do it. Literally whatever way you want to do it. Not just an A
Right.
B scenario. Like however you want to handle it, we've thought of a way that will react to that.
You grab a fucking boulder, grab a rock or whatever, and smash it through a window. Like just seeing things that are on the ground around you, smash it through a window. You want to go in, like, fuck it, the alarm's gonna trip, but I think I can get out of here quick
Yeah.
enough. Like just something that makes you feel a little bit
And just a throwaway
promiscuous. You're in
comment
that bitch.
at the end of it, like, "Oh, you was a bit reckless there. I thought we was gonna go in quiet."
Right. Yeah.
Just it's
Yeah. It's
so simple, but that would just add so much.
oh man, it'd be infinitely replayable too. Cause like just how many cause
You're
you
like,
would
well,
bring
what
that
does this
hitman
do? What
dynamic.
does this do? Okay, well, if I did it this way, what does that do?
So true. You would bring a lot of that hitman influence in there of like,
Mm.
oh, I'm gonna loop back and I'm gonna try this again. And yeah, for sure. But anywho, dude, I've taken up so much of your time. What's your final game on the docket?
So my final is The Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
Oh, yeah, I know this
Um,
is a big one for you. I'm surprised. Can I say I'm surprised uh Hearthstone isn't or Gwent
Gwent.
isn't in here. Yeah.
I that's I'm gonna be rattling off things. Gwent didn't make it, even though because
Mm.
yes, it's my favorite card game of all time. But these were the things of like what when I was envisioning it, it's like the first getting
Right,
that
right.
bite, which I'll quickly rattle what that card game would have been. It would have been Magic the Gathering. Like I remember playing it in
Okay.
person, and then I remember coming back one day and there being an Xbox Live sale, and be like, "Holy shit! There's a digital Magic game," and that was Magic 2014. And I played the shit. I 100%ed all of them. So yeah,
It- It's dude, I got like I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm sorry to cut you off of binding, but like I'm sitting here thinking and I'm like,
it's
I'm
okay. I'm only a super
surprised there's
fan.
no I'm surprised no Rocket League as well.
Mm. Again, I had a multiplayer title that would have been Battlefield
Okay,
4.
okay.
Um, of the way that it took over my life. Battlefield 4 was because I'd come from Call of Duty, and don't get me wrong, that's very addictive, but it blew my mind that there was that level of destructibility achievable on console with 32 versus 32 players. Because when you're doing COD and stuff, it's like 5v5.
Right, right, right.
There's not like the maps are tiny in Modern Warfare 2 and stuff like that. And you go into like Conquest on Battlefield 4 and you're on like a Golmud Railway and you're able to do 600 plus meter headshots. And it's just like,
Hmm.
holy shit, this is in a league of its own. And that's why you're having this people are having their Battlefield 4 moment, COD players, with Battlefield 6 now, of
Yeah.
being like, holy shit, this is amazing. It's just like, that's why it's not really resonated as much with me, because it's like, it's more of the same. Like, I had this, like, wow factor back then. Like, they've been doing this for a while, guys. Like, don't get me wrong, it's an
I
amazing
love
game.
watching clips.
But,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love watching clips. Even back then, I loved watching clips. I've always been fascinated with Battlefield's destructibility. Like
Mm,
it's just so cool to me, man. It makes me miss Mercenaries so much every
yeah.
time I look at it, though. It almost breaks my heart.
Yeah. That's a gameplay mechanic that's just heavily missed now with how like they struggle.
Right, Red Faction.
It's just they struggle with optimization, so just making it to that level of destructibility would probably be hell on earth.
What about Football Simulator or Football Manager?
I did have that as well down because this is the thing. Like we
Okay,
had to
yeah.
cut it down to 5 games. The
Right.
If we were doing 10 each, Battlefield would have made the cut. Magic would have made the cut. Football Manager, specifically for the PSP, is the one. that
Ooh,
exposed me to it because I was given a PSP as a gift when we went on holiday to Australia. So like I didn't have any other console at that time because we were away from the house. So I only had this PSP to pass time in, like when there was downtime, and just
right.
had Football Manager on it and just played the shit out of it. Um,
Dude, there's a PC wrestling manager game on
hmm.
Steam that is like supposedly the most in-depth wrestling manager in the world, and I go to my Steam Deck every time and I don't even know the name of the game. I just type in wrestling and it pops up, and like I think it's like TCW or some shit like that, but yeah, it's so tempting. It's all text-based. It's so in-depth. Like I've watched people play it, but I just know I'll lose years of my life if I even download that fucking thing.
You'll have the experience of Football Manager where it's, yeah, thousands
So
of hours
good.
gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to people about that. I made that video talking about video games are for kids, like, the quote that was out there, and it was such horse shit. And I was talking about that in the video. It's like multiplayer games, I can somewhat understand like the downside of just how time consuming, but like I can't tell like single player games, like there's an end point. It's just like any show that you're binge watching or whatever, like there's a point where it ends. It's not, you know what I mean? It just doesn't really feel all that, at least the games I play, I guess. It just doesn't feel all that time consuming compared to like if I got into a game like that in an endless game where I'm just gonna sink thousands of hours, I know I can't do it. So I try my best
Yeah,
to not
there's
even dive
definitely
in.
you have people though who absolutely have done that. Like even with Skyrim, I know people
Yeah,
who've put a
Skyrim's a good
thousand
one.
hours into Skyrim, and like I look at it and I'm like, how? Like
Yeah,
it's definitely, I think for on the 360 I put probably about 90 hours into it. So you're talking over 10 times
right.
that amount. Like, that's crazy. But it's just when something resonates with somebody. Um, because as an example, I think Balatro I'm at like 500 hours.
Yeah, that
It
game is
ain't
so addictive,
it
man.
ain't been out that long. This isn't
Yeah,
something that's been out for 10 plus years and stuff like that. It was like, it's why when I heard you talk about it, I was like, I don't know if I wanna. I had that same thing of like, because I
yeah.
was like, man, I love card games. I love roguelites. Hmm.
Golly, I
And now
swear.
I'm very much deep into that, and like I think I'm like 80% finished with it, of mastering all the decks, doing all the challenges, winning with every single card. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess what am I saying? Because that's a totally single player.
yeah.
Could you imagine if they Balatro 2 and it's like two, like one-on-one Balatro, like,
Oh,
dude,
they've already.
oh,
What do you mean, like multiplayer?
yeah.
Somebody's already made a mod for it, and they've pitched it to the developer,
Oh my God, dude.
and the developer was like,
Oh
we're
my
not looking to
God.
put it in just yet, but it's that type of thing of like your community's done it. There's a huge outcry for it as well. Like the people who are tuning into Balatro, because it's they back to Isaac now. They're implementing co-op into Isaac officially because that was a mod. It was pitched. The developer's like, I don't know. I don't know really. There's a lot of umming and ahhing, and there's so much want for it that they've, and like Vampire Survivors is also getting it. Like I think they realized you can really keep a death grip on your player base by keeping these roguelikes co-op. That's why Risk of Rain
Yeah.
2 survived for so long, is because it's fully co-op. You can play it with four friends. Like it's crazy. But yeah, the Binding of Isaac. Back to that. Rebirth in particular. I'd played indie games before that, um, but none had gripped me in the way that the Binding of Isaac had. It was a similar experience to Dark Souls, where when I picked it up initially, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, it didn't make any sense to me because I didn't play I'm obviously not a Nintendo gamer, so like a lot of its inspiration draws from early Zelda games in its design. Um, so I didn't have that to kind of like grip me in at. And then you talk about like art styles that can put people off. It's a very particular art style. Like it does its own thing. There's nothing else really quite like it. Like you have like Super Meat Boy and stuff like that, but it's again, it's a lot of Edmund Macmillan's kind of thought process. There's not really all that many games that share that level of grotesqueness. And then you find out that it's all, you know, you're a child and you're going in and you're, yeah, there's a lot of gruesome thematic imagery and stuff like that that you're doing, and it's just that gameplay loop, man, is so damn addictive. And the thing that blew the door off even more is you could probably put about 30 hours into the game and consider it a tutorial. Like your 30 hours is like, oh, okay, I kind of get like I understand like what this card does now. Like there's so much learning and memorize like what does this item do? Because it can be a thing of like you can get 40 minutes into a run and then you pick up an item and it will ruin your entire build. And that's what them 30 hours is unlocking items in the beginning and just learning what gels well with what. And also finding because you have some people who will die on the hill of like this is a great item if you don't play to that play style, it's not going to be a great item to because you're not going to use it and stuff like that. So like Ludovico technique for me is it changes your shooting into a ball that you control manually. I don't like that. There's a lot of people that love
Right.
that. You can play a very specific way. It's not for me. But yeah, just synergies, items, just the creativity on display for something so simple just blew my mind. Back in what it would have been 2015, I believe, is when that was on Xbox. I think it launched in 2015, and just yeah, didn't click with it at first. Went back, didn't click with it again. I think it took 3 times, and then it was just like, okay, I get it, and just yeah, 900 hours later, here I am
So
crying,
addictive, yeah.
crying that they added more achievements to it and screwed me over.
I actually it's fun, it's so wild. I saw him, Edmund McMillan. I don't know if it was on Twitter, I don't know where, but I saw him just like pop up on my For You page on something. I don't remember what site I was doom scrolling through, but it was the first time I'd ever seen the dude's like face. And I was
Mm.
like, oh wow, that's shit, yeah. Fucking that's Loon's guy. He created the beast that Loon straps to his dome.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's a very very special unique game. It's so like I said as well creative because he's pulled things because every single item in that game is something that exists. So everyday items that you find, food and stuff like that, and just being able to put a thematic twist on it and then have that as a gameplay mechanic is so crazy.
I really do think stuff like that is so important. I think that's a big reason why Indiana Jones and the Great Circle just clicked so much with me of like, yeah, dude, the environment is your tool set. Use it
Mm.
wisely. And like, yeah, I love stuff like that so much. So great shout, my friend. I kind of think to that point I should have mentioned probably 2K. I can't believe I did not bring up NBA 2K that like in terms of the thousands of hours and the influence just in the fact of no lifing a game and then totally sucking all of my time into one specific thing for so long. Like, because whenever I got out of games a little bit in the PS3 era, for that whatever 3, 4 year run, like I sure I was not playing as wide of a range of games because Blockbuster stopped existing during that period and
Mm.
was unfortunate. But I, I played 2K every year, hundreds and hundreds of hours gone to 2K. Like, it's those games, dude. Like even though I wasn't really playing games, I was still playing thousands of hours of 2K. And like i- whenever you have a game like that, everything else just kind of ceases to exist
Yeah,
for a little bit.
that's why
It's
people
crazy,
just
dude.
play
It's
COD,
awful.
just play Fortnite, just because it's so all-consuming to the
Yes, if
point
you
where you
want to be good
can't.
at it,
Yeah, if you exactly, especially that if you want to be winning, you have to dedicate to it like any multiplayer game. But they just, especially nowadays as well, with just the amount of stuff that they put out. Like people don't need to play anything when if you're a child and you because it's
right?
free. It's the perfect thing for a parent. Like they're going to badge you for the microtransaction currency, but like all the content is like there to be accessed, and it's just
Well,
constantly on rotation as well. It doesn't stagnate to them, which is just baffling.
and it's like you look at the problems that the industry is having, and I swear to God, I'm going to get out of your hair. But you look at the problems that the industry is having of like people do not play anything. They play like a couple games, and it's so bizarre, Loon, where like we were talking about, Metal Gear Solid sold the best-selling Metal Gear Solid ever is like 7 million copies sold, and that's great. But nowadays, that would be a financial disaster. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And like you combine that with the fact like games have to sell so much more than they ever have before because budgets are so large. Combine that with the fact that people are playing two, three games and not playing anything else. And it's like the
One
deterioration
one
of
more
this
as
art
well
form.
to combine. You think back to what would it have been? What year was the release of Metal Gear One?
1998.
So 1998. You didn't have a backlog either of competing games like you do now. That's also the
Well,
massive thing of like why people don't also because it may not even be just the fact that they're playing one or two games that like they're not selling as many copies as well in the rate of growth because some people have just bought other games so they're not buying new games because they have a library of 600 games they haven't touched and are trying to work their way through and then a game will drop. For instance, we'll use Vampire the Masquerade as an example. They really want to try that out, they add that to it, and then they don't have to look at any of it because they have so much overwhelming choice
yeah,
already. Like it's I don't know if this is too aggressive. It is a little bit worrying as to like how sustainable
of
that is
course.
because it's like
Yeah,
you're gonna have people like us where we buy new games a lot, but like, could there be a day where you skip a few months because you genuinely have built up so much in sales and stuff like that over time. You have so many different platforms of choice. Like it's just like I don't really care that a new game's dropped, and a lot of people are in that boat of like so. Because I had a Dan Moore in the Discord and stuff like that doesn't really buy any new games anymore. Really, he was talking about and just working on the backlog. It doesn't really bother him and stuff like that.
yeah,
Like he went out and got Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 because like I said, like you'll have these outliers where it's like I have to play that. Like that is like I want to play that, and everything else is just like yeah, I'd like to play it, but I'm in no rush to. I've got plenty of
yeah,
choice.
yeah. Just kind of that idea of get to it when you get to it. And
Mm.
I think that when you see Expedition 33 and Mafia and like these games propositioning themselves as like a entry point of $30 less than their competitors, it's like, damn, man, that is very compelling to play a game of the caliber of Mafia or Expedition for $40 or $50. It's like, I think that might be an avenue, but it's like, golly, development costs are already so expensive, and now we're gonna have to make our games less expensive. It's a tough pill to swallow. It's a tough. Uh, I don't know if there is a solution to it, but I do know that it's you look at something like Hollow Knight Silk Song, and you're like, well, there's something to it, right? There's something to the fact that it's $20 and Balatro is $15 and Ball Pit is $15 and I don't have the answer, but I do wonder if there is a potential answer of like, okay, we released Uncharted 2, a game of that caliber, a game of that scale, and it's $35, it's $40. Like I I understand how fucking
No one has the balls to try that. It feels like the closest we've got is like you said with Mafia at 50. And because
Expedition's
it
pretty
wasn't a
fucking close as well.
smash hit, I was talking about like big name developers tied to that, like publishers taking that like
Yeah.
risk. Um,
Oblivion
that was a remaster though. To be fair,
Yeah, but so was a lot
um,
of other ones that are 70.
yeah, but a one that I'll give as well, like a little bit higher budget that had that kind of they took that risk. I believe Remnant was half price to a standard
Mm,
game at the time. It was like 30 or 40 day one.
yeah,
And there's a massive reason that attributed to its success
took off.
because it's
Yeah.
like it's a little bit clunky in its gameplay and stuff like that. You can't say that it has the polish of say when you're looking at like Diablo or Borderlands and stuff like that as other like loot driven games. It doesn't have the same polish as them games, but just pricing it accordingly allow people to be like, well, screw it, I'll give it a go. I'll test it out. I'll take that
Yeah,
risk.
right. I think we are kind of getting in that impulse era as things are moving digitally. If you can click a button and not feel immediate pain from your bank account, like there is something satisfying about that, right? Where like you see $30, you click the button and it's like, okay, well, fucking A, that's 2 days of Starbucks. Like it's you know what I'm saying? It doesn't hurt when you spend $30 opposed to spending 70, man. 70 every time I spend $70 and I swipe that fucking card, I'm like, oh, fuck, this sucks. You know? It just does. Like you feel it. I don't ever feel that with $40 games. Even $50 games, I don't feel that. Not the same way. It feels like that's the right point. That's the right price point where I'm like, yeah, this I think this is kind of what most games are worth to me.
Yep.
And I know that sounds shitty, but like Grand Theft Auto 6 is probably worth more, but I'm paying the same price for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines too. What something's wrong here.
Yeah. It's funny as well because I don't know if you're familiar with Northern Lion. Big, you like the bald guy.
I don't know.
Did a lot of like one of the main Isaac content creators, and then kind of just became like a variety stream. Like he just talks a lot, basically. Most of the time, now he's just vibing. And
Hell yeah.
a short popped up recently where they were like when the price um debate was like flying around, and he was like, "Okay, guys," because he had a really interesting like point of view because everybody's like saying like, "Ah, oh, well, like 100-hour game has to be like worth more than something that you beat in like 5 hours," and he was like, "You're asking somebody who put 5,000 hours into Isaac, so if you're saying like price to dollar ratio of like hour." What?
Yeah, I
So
should pay
Isaac
10
is gonna
grand for
be
that
like
game.
15,000, like because he was like, don't even ask me about Slay the Spire 2. That's gonna cost you the like a brand new Honda Civic, baby. Like
Right.
you can't look at it in that way. Like it's insane because it just doesn't trans. It's what it is worth to you, the individual.
Yeah.
How much it's worth to you. Because he's like, you walk away
But
paying like $8 for Isaac now, and you can get thousands of hours, or you're paying. It's just if it's your interests, and like just be happy with. Just make sure you're happy purchasing it. Don't because he was also saying like don't buy something that you're not gonna be happy with just because other people want you to be happy with it.
but see, I think that's where the equation gets messy because I would be happy purchasing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 at like 40, $50.
Mhm.
I don't really want to pay full price for that game. But and it's my choice to do so, right? Like of course I'm fully aware of that. I don't have to fucking go and buy it, but like I do want to play it. I don't think I would feel bad about purchasing a game that's a 60 on Metacritic, 65, 70 on Metacritic, whatever, at a reasonable price to account for the fact that this is like a mid-tier game. a mid-tier price for a mid-tier game. But like, yeah, do you want to put it out there that like, is that how you view your game? There's all this weird, uh, it just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a real solution to it other than the simple solution of buy what the fuck you want to buy and do some research and be accountable for your own purchasing behavior. Like, I think that's the
Yeah,
only
that's the
solution,
that's the only
unfortunately.
way. It's how much you want to play it in that given
Yeah.
moment and stuff like that.
And I got to be honest, and now at this point, we're just literally talking to each other. I don't, I don't think a single human being is still listening to this fucking ramble. But I, it is like I think about that with Masquerade Bloodlines too, where I'm like, dude, at this point, with the delay constantly happening and like not being able to go and pick up my copy, it's like I don't
When
like.
that happens,
I
people
might
just
just.
cancel.
I'm thinking about just putting
Hmm.
my money towards like Kirby Air Riders or some shit in November. Like I don't know, man.
That
I'm losing interest.
this is gonna, and this is like where you can tell that like I am a level-headed human being. I love the IP and the world and stuff like that. That's probably what I would recommend a lot of people do if they're in that boat. Like
Yeah.
unless you're a diehard fan, this is a game that's gonna be very cheap very quickly. I don't
Very
see it like
soon, yeah.
because it's the physical probably won't because they've fucked up the distribution and stuff. It's probably going to be something that's going to be very rare to get your hands on. So if you have that as like a drive as a gamer that you want to hold on to something valuable with, then by all means. But like this is going to be a digital game that's going to probably be in January like $20.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's true.
and it's like
Yeah.
what
That's
that's 3 months away. It's gonna
yeah,
lose. What is it launching at? Did you say 70?
I think it's 70.
So $50 loss in 3 months.
Oosh. Yeah. Damn. You're right, dude. I think I might actually. I'm about to go grab some food and I'm gonna head over towards that way, towards GameStop. I might just swing in there and be like, hey, throw that money towards Kirby or, something in November. Unfortunately, like if it's not what I've already paid for it, so I'm gonna go in there. If it's there, if it's available, I'll pick it up and play it. Like I,
Yeah,
I want to play it. I'm really curious. I want to like it, but there comes a certain point where it's like I'm not gonna just sit here and wait on this copy. Like I don't care that much. And by the time it gets here, Outer Worlds 2 is out, and like you are absolutely not priority over Outer Worlds 2. So
it's unfortunate
we'll
that that
see.
seems to be like a reoccurring theme though with physicals, right? They seem to be having like distribution problems. I think physical posted. God, what was it? Immortality, I believe, got like a print. It didn't get like a normal standard print, right? Somebody's picked up the
No,
printing for it.
Lost in Cult, yeah.
Have you received your copy out of curiosity?
No, I don't think it's supposed to come in until what
Because
Q1 of 2026.
okay, so you know a little bit more about it because he put in his order and he was like, "Look, it's been months and like there's no. Is this normal?" Because he doesn't. I don't think he buys like he's never dealt with like limited run and stuff like that. So you have these
Yeah,
people
it's
that
the same
really
setup.
want. That's what I explained. I assumed it would have been, but this is the
Mhm.
crazy thing is that like people, that game's out, right? You can play it. People really do want physical, but you're punishing them for going that route so much now. Like you're making
Yeah,
them wait like a very, very long time. Like Yakuza's prints from Limited Run got delayed a bunch of times to the point where, again, this is another thing. They've been dispatched to me now. I'm waiting a year for them. Like, there's no other industry that you do that with, where you buy
yeah,
something and you're waiting, unless it's like custom crafted. Like, this is just meant to be a form of entertainment, like a movie and stuff like that. The movie releases, you go and buy it, and it gets shit. It's instant. There's no like, oh
right.
well,
No,
we have to see how many of them there are. So in a really
it is
shitty
really,
state.
yeah, it's horrendous, man. It's great in some aspects, but it's horrendous in a lot of others. It's obviously moving to an all digital, not an all digital, but the percentages are going to be
Yeah,
probably
skewing.
85-15
Yeah.
by next generation. Um, so yeah, but I appreciate you having me on, dude. This is a fun ass conversation. Always, uh, if I could fucking win the lottery and pay us both to do this shit full time, dude. I think, I swear to God, I really think that you and I could have a conversation about 8 hours
Everything.
long every fucking day about games and just endlessly fucking bounce back and forth. It's like, playing tennis with somebody who is perfectly in sync with your serve or whatever. It's such fun conversations, man. So I always appreciate it.
It's always a blast, as I said. It's very privileged to have had the opportunity to obviously hop on your channel, and it's we're now here at this point, and you know, here's the more of it. It's amazing.
Absolutely, dude. Years and years to come, hopefully, unless I kick the bucket. But I don't think that
Or
this.
me
I'm
at
just
this
so
point
addicted to
with
this
with
shit,
how much I'm in pain with biking.
dude.
Fucking
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. This is just so addictive. Like it's just such an addictive. I just love it. I just everything about it. Like I love it. It enhances this hobby so much to me of just talking about it.
mm,
So yeah, dude. I'm pumped for obviously the things we have lined up for the future that we'll share more about. Probably not share it now, but share it once everything's greenlit. But
yep.
yes, sir. Appreciate you, my friend. And I'm gonna go grab some food and see if my damn vampires are in store.
Awesome. Obviously, links will be in the description for Brandon's channel. If you somehow stumbled upon here before there, go check that out. And if you want to join the Discord, make sure to pop a comment down below, and I'll hit you back with the link. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.